the Star Spangled Banner for.
That was at the football game, wasn't it?
for
At the beginning of the Bills game, some dude was on the guitar trying to pull the Jimi Hendrix for the.
that was like an 11-year-old boy that
Was he that
played.
young?
He played his socks off. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Hey, did you catch the Bills were actually in the locker room for some reason? Did you see that?
No.
The Bills were actually in the locker room during the beginning of the game and for the national anthem.
I think they might have made that a league rule in the last several weeks.
You can tell it's days are getting longer. Last time we had a meeting, it was dark outside.
Hey, that's a good, way to be an optimist. Way to go, Triple D. How is everybody tonight?
Doing great. The video's not working.
Well, you started to come in, Issa, and you were a green psychedelic outline that was kind of quite cool. So if you go back to that.
That choice I have, the second part of the camera does not seem to bring me
Now he's gone.
No, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
But the video part, all I get is that green background, which
I like that. I think you found a new maybe second living here. You could competitively or something. America's Got Talent with Issa Felice. That's what I'm going for. Maybe you could turn it into a superhero.
Are you in Denver right now, Issa?
Say again?
Are you in Denver right now? It's legal to have psychedelic mushrooms.
Hey, listen, I am done with this meeting. You make my day. I'm good to go the rest of the day. Awesome.
Issa,
Okay.
when I retire, I'll go out with you in a year.
You're always welcome.
If we could get a little closer to reality and work here. Mr. Mayor, did my contact from the Buffalo Police and Blaisdell Police mention that they saw a completed report from your department?
Our draft has gone through the public hearing, and it's set to be adopted by the village board on Monday at our trustee meeting. And but we modeled the process that, Professor, you taught us. And but we are a part-time village police force. We have, I think, 14 officers, and mostly community policing. And so we didn't get into the more serious policing questions that you might that we address on this committee. So,
Well, all I heard was that you're done making you the resident expert, and it must have freed up all sorts of time for you, knowing that is done. So, boy, we could really use the English professor going forward. So, anyways, hello everyone. How is everybody? Do we have? It's 5:05. We should get started here. Maybe we could all go to wherever somebody just put up on the screen. Looks like
that's me. Since the only thing I can get is the green versus that just a dreaming place.
okay. Well, we all wish we were there. Maybe pick your beach of choice, I guess. And anyways, I will get started and just say that I don't have really any address other than to say that we have like a month this month to get our draft put together and put to bed so that we can move it forward so the Erie County Legislature can move forward with whatever recommendations we make that they want to take up. And we'll have it all in for April. I'll also say that the sheriff's office, through our very mighty Daniel Dichkovsky, has presented me with a whole bunch of data. In fact, he damn near completed the 74-point checklist, and we can talk about that. But I just wanted to let you know that, excuse me, we have all the calls for service, have those analyzed for you. I don't know how I'm going to share it. I think I have to. I'll pat myself on the back. I had to learn quickly and with a few bumps and hiccups, but Microsoft, like Docs and Forms and all of that business. But I've done that, and I've helped our task force and maybe 6, 7 other towns. Our graduate program is helping, so we're getting those kinds of data for all of these different places. I'm excited too. And well, I guess, does anybody have any questions as far as moving forward? The time frame that we have, we all at least understand. I'm not going to suggest we're good with it, but if you understand what's in front of us, that would be excellent. So you guys are amazing, and somebody just turned on their mic, and now I'm echoing. Hello, hello. Okay. So yesterday, in learning Google Forms, I sent out a survey, a link even, not even just a survey, but a link to it. And then Andrew was awesome enough and at such the ready that he shipped it off to you within literally as quickly as I could realize that I had messed up. I'm talking a minute later, I sent him an email saying, please hold the presses, and he had already sent it to you. That's how quick Andrew is, so we're lucky to have him. But I did fix it. We sent it out, and right before, I don't know, maybe an hour ago, I just clicked on the survey because I created it, and I looked. I was like, I wonder if anybody but me filled it in. And I looked, and there were 61 responses already. You folks are awesome. And then I clicked on it right before the meeting, and it was into the mid 80s already. So we already have 80 surveys, and we have a request from maybe the town of Boston. And this is twice I'm going to pat myself on the back. I figured out how to send the HTML code for the survey so they could embed it in their social media accounts. So who knows? Let's hope we get a lot of surveys back. I can show you some things already, maybe, especially Drew, will you be able to allow me to share my screen? It could be a nightmare if he allows it, but.
Do you, why am I pulling my mask down? There's nobody here but me, but do you see the, at the bottom of the screen, it says share?
Yeah, no, I know how to do it. I'm just wondering if I have permission or access to do it.
You should be able to.
Okay, cool. So,
Issue.
okay. You want me to try to pull up some of the results from the survey quick? Yes, no?
So Marty,
Yes.
real quick, I just want to let you know that we did get that out to all of the towns and villages and cities. So all municipalities in Erie County have that survey.
That is awesome.
Yep. So Boston, Jason Keating did get right back to me. He's real tech savvy and said it's fine. It's okay to put the link up on on Facebook, but he was trying to create, which is probably what you got him, a different way that they could click on it. I don't know, one last click, I think is what he said. But my assistant realized that in order to fill out the survey that we linked, they have to have a Google account.
Gotcha.
So maybe he's going to try to figure out a way that it didn't have to go through Google. I'm not sure. But anyway, those are out. And I asked for everybody to share it as soon as possible. Let them know that Mayor Krebs and I were working on this committee, and hopefully they'll get that out. And that's why you're seeing an increase.
Well, how awesome is that? I mean, literally, we sent it out last night, and today we already have 80 surveys. So
Well, that's good.
thank you. Thank you so much. It obviously got to everybody. That was excellent. All right. I'm going to take a quick peek and see if any of this is up on my drive. And if it is, I'll share it. If it's not, I won't. How's that? Could this be it? One of them? Okay. All right. Well, we can at least look at 2007. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the calls for service data. A couple of things I wanted to say about this. You know, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I felt like an idiot as a criminologist when I read the governor's report and it said to look at police calls for service to see what the role of the police is. It seems so simple, but as I think I said to you folks, I had never really said that before or thought about it exactly like that. And it's so simple and straightforward. Well, with that in mind, let me just tell you that I'm going to stream down. These are just the categories. See in the gray there? Those are just the categories of crimes or calls that citizens called in to the Erie County Sheriff's Office during 2017. Those are just categories. There's hundreds of them. And I keep thinking back to some of the things that Mayor Krebs has said about how all of this reverts back to community policing. But if you look at this number down here, there were 94,576 calls for police services during 2017 alone to the Erie County Sheriff's Office. You know, 95,000. Okay. I can show you a little later, but here's the different towns or villages. I'll show you a chart. It'll be easier. But we do have the specific numbers. Here's the charts. This first one is, you can't really see, but it just shows that there's a jillion. I couldn't even type them all in. But all the different kinds of calls, and we'll see what those blips are in a second, because there's very consistent data that I saw. So those are the different towns and stuff. So they're not all labeled. Some of them are. Mayor Krebs, you can see your SPR is 1, 2, 3. I don't know, maybe number 5 on the list. So maybe you do keep those part-timers busy along with the sheriff's office. But anyways, you can see this this tall one right here is Grand Island. Anyways, if we then look at what kind of calls more generally, the biggest one right here is just general police calls for services. It's almost everything. And when you look at the other ones, it's EMS, it's fire, it's person calls, somebody's confused, disoriented, they're having a problem with their neighbor, warrants, assist others. So, but this is the big one here. Did somebody have a comment or question?
Marty, just on because of the scale, since that the way that scale is set up is driven by the services call. The other one appears to be not highly significant when you actually look at it. But in reality, if you look at the first line of that, it's a 10,000 grid line. So such things as assist is probably around the anywhere between 8,500 to nearly 9,000.
Are you talking about this table?
No. Back. It's on the chart.
Okay.
Because of the way that chart is set up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's the scale of the chart is driven by services.
Yes.
It may look on the other ones as being very, very low, but numerically speaking, they're not really that low.
Correct. If everybody understands what he's saying, excellent observation. Because the calls for services are so high, it put the scale going up the left side up to 25,000. So it made all those little ones on the bottom seem like they're not existent, but that could be, 800 calls or something.
No, 8,000. If you look, some of them are 8,900 and they don't even hit the first line, the first grid line.
That's right. And so I broke it down then into smaller categories, about 20 categories, so that it would help deal with Issa's issue. Thanks for the segue, Mr. Felice.
Yeah.
And so that did it that way. And then this one just reminded me that we're talking about 2017. But here is the just three categories: calls for police services, type 2 crimes, which are you could think about it as less serious misdemeanor type crimes, and then the type 1 crimes are the felonies. Is kind of the easy way to think about it. There's technically 4 property and 4 personal crimes, but anyways, that's one thing that I wanted to show you. And I could tell you that something else that I thought was interesting is that I'm sorry, I'm trying to unshare.
Hey, Marty.
Yeah.
It's Triple D. I just want to share, last time the question was, why are our Buffalo calls so high? And that is because of our response to calls for service at the multiple county buildings.
Sure.
In the city of Buffalo. It has nothing to do with transport. So
gotcha. That was the question we had.
Yeah, those are real calls for service at fights, and they're all social services related.
All my years of parking in the ramp there, going to police headquarters for one of 1,000 reasons. There's right. I always saw a sheriff's deputy pulled up or pulling up in front of the Rath building and others. So that makes sense. And thank you for the clarification. Just a couple of general statements I'd make about the calls for service that I thought was interesting. The one is the proportion stayed pretty similar in that about 95% of all of the calls for service each year was, roughly 95,000. With 90% were the low level calls for services. About 4 to 5% were the type 2 crimes, and about 1 to 2% were the type 1 or felony types of crimes. What I thought was interesting was that as the years went on, two things happened. The calls for the crimes went down in proportional size, and I'm telling you that that's because crime across our nation has been going down and continues to go down. So we would expect fewer calls for crimes, especially serious crimes, which again have continued to decrease. But interesting, and I've seen this in some of my other towns as well, the calls for police services have increased. And that explains why we go from like 93% or 95%. I'm sorry, let me go back. 93% of the first year when there was more crimes being called in and fewer relative calls for police services. And as we went on towards 2019, the crime calls went down and subsequently the calls for police services, those less serious, more general calls increased in size. So it went from like 73, 74% to 75, 76%, which is a pretty substantial difference when you're talking about, 95,000 calls a year. So, anyways, that was one thing. I suppose, let me see if there's one other thing that I can share with you. I don't see it. No, that's not it. Okay, so I can't show you the findings of the survey yet, but I'll get those out to everybody. So I'm just looking at the other things we said we were going to do today. And I think the biggest things is that we're going to have to do kind of maybe 2 or 3 things to make this report work. I think some of it we can start on the legwork, and that is if we break up into our subcommittees, each subcommittee, we already looked and compared the governor's mandate with the Erie County Sheriff's policies, but we're going to have to write a section about that. So people in the subcommittees could be working on that first section. I think, we don't need findings or results for that. But then I think we should talk about today how we want each section to look, so that when the subcommittees break down, we'll be able to, everybody will kind of be on the same template, and then it'll go together better. So I believe we obviously need an intro to each section. I think we should compare the governors with the sheriff's policies, procedures. And I'm open to anybody jumping in and making suggestions, but I was thinking then we could have kind of a methods section, or, what we did for that section. So we'd say, in this section, we're going to discuss the findings from the citizen survey, from the police officer survey, from the calls for services, whatever. But here's where we got our information from. I think we should then provide those findings. I think maybe a discussion, recommendations, in conclusion. I don't know. That's
Marty, can I offer a suggestion?
please. I was hoping actually.
Well, because I know I haven't contributed to this group like the rest of you have. But you know what I think the best thing to do? I'm just giving a suggestion here.
Okay.
We don't need to know how the sausage is made. I mean, those tables and everything you did shows that's great work. But I think, you're going to lose anybody who's really interested in this thing by getting in too much details of how we got there. I think it's sufficient that each of the committees, put something in writing, and then taking those writings, because each of the committees, the people who join those committee heads, particular interests in that committee and something. So they're going to be the ones who I think can say, look, this is what we found. Here are the, here's the findings, here's the charts. They can make references, write something up. Then the question is taking that all together and then making it in a cohesive document. But I think if everybody can do a rough draft and it can be expanded upon, we can line it up to follow almost the outline that the governor set in his thing. And then basically at the end, because basically the governor wants to know what's the current operation of these various police agencies around the state. And then are they following the best police practices? And so I think when we do, this is what they do, this is what we found, and as you said, and as far as suggestions that the governor has made, we should deal with this. Do they have it? Yes or no? And if it's no, the sheriff's department, because of the uniqueness of it versus like the city of Buffalo or something like that, we can say no, but that's because this and this and this, or no, but they should, and that should be part of our recommendation if that group said it. Then I think when we see it all, then I think it's easier to have them, and I'm willing to volunteer since I've done such little work up to this point, is then put it together in a first draft so that people's different writings won't be interfered, but the points that they're making, and then circulate that with a group to fine tune it. So that if somehow something got lost in the translation, that committee that focused on that particular issue can say, no, that was really what it wasn't our finding, or that wasn't the point we were trying to make, or that really wasn't what we were recommending. Then we can tweak it from there. Wouldn't that make more sense and probably easier to get to our deadline?
I have no problem with that. I don't, and maybe I would take a couple of my edits out, but I don't think that anything that I suggested would not give each subcommittee the freedom to write whatever they wanted. I mean, I just said, put your findings, what is the discussion, and what are some recommendations. Maybe we could just hold it to that for instructions. What did you find? What did you want to talk about? And what are your recommendations? And that would be awesome. And let people go and give them a date to turn it back in. And then you and me and whoever else use trickery to help out, we will.
Right. And so I like your idea of giving each of the committee an outline, so that they know what are the kind of stuff that we need for you to tell us. Okay, so, and if everyone is consistently knows the outline of what we do and follow that outline, almost like a questionnaire, and broke it down that way, when we get it, then it's going to be easier to put the pieces together, and then making sure that each of the committees point to when they make their findings. Well, how did you find that? What was the basis of your finding? What was the source material? So here's your finding. What was the source material? And then looking at the governor's thing that would affect it. What did the governor want you to look at that you did look at or you couldn't look at or was not applicable? What's your recommendation? If we make it that simple, and then I think we can put everything together, and then I think we'll have a great document.
Excellent. Does anybody else have anything to add? Because I'm sure all over that.
Marty, this is Bill Krebs.
Yep.
I think that's a real good idea. We talked about something like that at the last meeting. I would only add that the subcommittees need some of that data to look at, and I don't think I have it. I don't think you sent out that stuff yet. And also, we would like to have. I think we also need to have the results of the surveys. And that would, that would affect the way we respond to some of the governor's suggestions and our initial, the subcommittee's initial report on what they were thinking. I know our subcommittee already knows that we're going to make 2 recommendations. I think there's 2 that we suggested already. We're sort of looking for the data or reasons to make that, more essential. But so I think we need that information. Then the subcommittee can get together and just sort of flesh it out in one meeting and take some minutes and get a rough draft of what we're going to send to you and get the committee members by email to agree with it or make comments, and then we'll be on our way.
Excellent. And I assumed that I would get you that. So I just had everything finalized as far as the data, the tables and charts that I just showed you. I have to figure out a way. I'm hoping that I could just put it on the Google Drive if I convert it from an SPSS file. Mel, I'm wondering if you have any insight here, but if I could convert my SPSS file, I know I can do a Microsoft Word document so everybody could read it and cut it and paste it or whatever you want. But the files are so huge, you can't send them in an email. And I'm thinking hoping, Mel, maybe that I would be able to put it just on our drive. And if I could do it like that, then you guys should be able to pull it off of that sheriff's drive, Google Drive that we made and share it that way. But one way or the other,
Yeah.
I will have it all for you.
This is Isa. Do we have? I know I have not seen them. I'm told that I may have missed the boat. Do we have the answers to the questions that each subcommittee formulated? I have not seen any responses to any of those things that we requested. For example, for subcommittee 4 is, okay, what is the demographic breakdown of the sheriff department, of the policing section of the sheriff department? We haven't seen any of that, and those things are kind of basis to determine, well, is the reason why their racial breakdown is it something that has to do with the civil service rules that is preventing them from then to get better, or are they okay with the numbers that they have compared to the population that they serve, and so on and so forth?
So, Isa, I'll say this first off: if you missed the boat, it's because it's on your beach right there. That's not where a boat is supposed to be. It should be in the water. I've had a sailboat for 20 years. I keep it in the water. Anyways, I'm sorry, I can't help myself sometimes. So that at the beginning of the meeting, I had mentioned that our wonderful liaison, Triple D, is putting all of that stuff together. We're running it through the system, and I have had a brief look at some of it, and I would tell you he's gone through as much as he can, and he's continuing to work on it. So the short answer is yes, you'll have those responses. We'll have access to them. After looking at them, I don't know if they're going to answer all of the types of questions that you mentioned to the detail that you might like, but we got responses for nearly all of them. He's been working real hard on that.
Marty, can I make a suggestion? Instead of having all the documents sent because it's all done, why don't they be given to the committees on a rolling basis? At least that way the committee members can read it, keep up with it, and then when the various chairs get together, they can then better evaluate what they didn't get. And that might be part of what they want to add in the report. We asked for this information, it was unavailable to us. And therefore that might be part of a recommendation of what has to be done in the future. So that type of information is available to the public. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It might not exist, but it could be. And the other thing is, I know you guys love that Google Doc, but I guess because I don't have Google or whatever. I mean, I can never open that thing. I've tried 100 times, and I'm pretty computer savvy, but I guess I don't have Google Docs. I have all.
I'm with you. It's a free thing that you just have to make.
Download?
You just have to make through Gmail. But
Okay.
need a Gmail account, and it's all free. But yeah, I understand.
But so,
Trust me, I understand.
so my suggestion to you would be, since these documents that you can create reports, make them in Word, you can also turn them into a PDF file, because eventually, don't you think when we prepare a report, we're not going to put a Microsoft Word thing, we're going to make it a Word document that we convert to a PDF file and then attach things, and you can easily move things in Adobe Pro DC, which I use all the time for, my work as an attorney and also at the Water Authority. Seems like if we could circulate things in PDF, I don't know if that's putting a wrench in. If it is, that's okay. I'll get a Google account.
So
Or try to
let me
find,
say, let me say this, that I will be sending things out in waves. They're just coming in this week, so a bunch of it I have. One last beat that I was referring about, they're still putting it together. It's not complete, and they will go back and we can ask for more. So we have almost everything that we need. We already have, like I said, I can share as we go. I wonder at the end of this meeting, I'll look to see how many surveys we're up to. It kind of makes me excited to see that number go up. And as far as sharing it, I will try to figure out my best to get these things. And obviously, yeah, we need it in a PDF eventually. But how we get it there might be a little bit of a exploration on my part. So, but I will figure that out, and I will get you all of this stuff. And I'm talking in the next day or so, and then we'll whatever piecemeals come from there, we'll work on that, and we can make more requests of the sheriff's office. They've been very good. Okay.
Can I just ask that when that stuff goes up on the Google Drive, we just get an email saying it's there? That would help for me at least.
Yep.
Just to remind me to go look at it.
Yep. Will do.
Marty, this is Bill again. And
Yes, Bill.
we found when we were putting our plan together in Springville that the technical advice from our officer in charge was really, really important. We had ideas, we had a little bit of data to work with, but because he's the professional, he helped, actually in the wording and formulating some of our ideas. So I think maybe Daniel, if you could come, review our group's, plan and our response. Maybe send it to you by email, and you could get it back to us, sort of like, with your suggestions and the technical or professional wording that would apply. I don't think that takes away from the sort of like the citizen review of this, but I think it adds an awful lot of information and make the plan more acceptable to everyone all the way around. So I think that's a step, at least in our group, that we'd like to see.
Also workable, Bill. Yeah, it makes it more workable, readable, and it clarifies things. I always use somebody that knows whatever I'm evaluating as a reader to make sure that, like you said, we're using the appropriate terms or laws or what have you that directly impact the sheriff's office, and we can have him just give us his comments, and it's not going to be him changing anything we say. We'll review his comments, and if there's something that we need to change to clarify and improve the document because he gave us that insight, then that's I think the smart way to go.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, Marty, the reason why the Mayor Blaisdell told you that is because the village mayors had a meeting, and the mayor of Kenmore, Mayor Mang, was talking about his putting together his plan, and he suggested that if anybody had one drafted, or that we should share it. So we did with the 16 villages. Mayor Mang had the Niagara County plan. That's all finished. He had already read that. So just so you know, and I can send it to you if you want, Marty.
I heard Oswego State also, or Oswego County has posted a decent one as well. So in one ways, I usually like to see after I try my best to see what other insights other people had. I hope other people aren't taking your good work and turning in a similar report. That would be unfortunate, to say the least.
Well, because I'm a lawyer, I believe strongly with stealing the best writing that you can and just, that's what lawyers do for a living. It's not like we write anything original. We find the best case, the best brief, and then we copy it. Sometimes we have to cite it, sometimes we don't. So I think those who are early, we should look at those and steal from the best and make us better.
Hey,
The
Marty,
professor will remind you of the emphasis on citing others' work. But anyways,
Marty, it's Jim. I was just gonna let everybody know the Niagara County Sheriff's one is done and it's on their website as well. So if anybody's looking for something, it's pretty good too.
excellent. I'll be interested to see that. I think we are collecting lots of different kinds of information, and I don't think this is a race. I think I'm really impressed with how this is moving along, and we're interacting with folks in the community, us and the sheriff's office, and we've give and take with gathering information and data. It's all the data and everything that we have is only because we specifically asked for it. And so let's see what people have to say. I can tell you, after looking at the 61 surveys, a couple of observations. It seemed to me, as somebody who used to do this a lot in the 90s, I think overall, and I saw this in a couple of towns that have done surveys as well, I think attitudes and perceptions towards the police have gone down since the 90s, which is really interesting to me. And so I will say that when we asked a question about do you support the police, or would you go and ask a police officer for help, it's in the probably between strongly agree and agree. We're probably in the mid to upper 70%. When I used to do it in the 90s, it used to be about 92% often. So that's a pretty substantial drop off. And what I saw this time, about half of the people, if I recall, said that their impressions were influenced by the media primarily. In one town that I did it, I think it was even more than the responses that I've seen here so far, but certainly similar. And that is, most people didn't have contact, but said they basically, changed their attitude about the police over time. So I think that's an interesting issue. While most people were very supportive, I think it's great that we got divergent responses. So some people were not happy and gave low responses. Typically, they were, well, one theme that I picked up was general distrust and dislike for police, and that it was based on race and gender issues. And one was a little sad to me in that the last one of the questions that said, what recommendations would you make to the Erie County Sheriff's Office? The response was something along the lines of, I really have never liked the police. I don't like the police, and there's nothing they can do to make me change my attitudes. And so that was sad. But also gives direction. If enough people feel like that, then you have to come up with new and creative ways to keep at it and try to prove your worth and show why those attitudes should change. But so we have those surveys. I think those are going to give us lots to talk about when we have the the calls for services, which again are, 95,000 a year. When you look at the police use of force numbers, they were really small, and there were maybe 8 complaints a year out of those 95,000 calls. So that puts things into context as well. Although it certainly doesn't explain those that lead to very bad perceptions. I always say, when people say, your chances of getting struck by lightning are 1 in 10 million. I'm like, well, that might be true unless you're that one. Then it's a whole different story when you get hit. So, anyways,
Marty, could I ask a question?
yeah.
So, do the surveys indicate the race of the respondents, and also do they indicate whether or not they've made a complaint? Because I know a lot of times people don't make complaints because they don't believe that anything is going to be done, and so the lack of complaints may not necessarily translate to a lack of issues, and also with respect to the race of those surveyed. I mean, if we're surveying people who for whom racism is not an issue, right, then we may not be capturing the problem as accurately as we think.
Yeah. So I guess my first response would be find your link and go through, and you live in Erie County, so fill the thing out, and you'll see the questions. But definitely there are demographic questions. I'm not sure. I don't know if there's one that said, "Did you fill out a complaint?" I don't know. There's a bunch of questions, but I don't know if that was one of them.
I don't recall. In regards to the race, I think the question was actually posed very wisely, where they included Latino or Hispanic as a group of the race, not separated out what is your ethnicity and that kind of stuff. I think that was done very well.
Yeah, there were like 7 or 8 options, I believe, plus another.
Marty, kind of to build on what I also think in the report, we have had great cooperation from the Sheriff's Department to get this information. But I think the tone of the report, and I'm just giving you my opinion, maybe because I'm a former judge and I believe in neutrality. This report has to stand on its own. It can't be like a cheerleader, because then it will come into question our objectivity. So, what Miles just said, that when we're using this evidence because, hey, we gathered information and people respond, I think we have to be careful to say that it's based on what was submitted, but acknowledge what Miles just said. However, we know there are people in the community who may not have responded or give negative response because they have no confidence that will bring about meaningful change, or some people may be fearful that by responding that somehow that they're going to identify themselves with criticism and not sure. I think those things we should know, and that the report should be very neutral. I also think, because I just pulled up the Niagara County report, unfortunately they looked at their jails, and we determined early on, I know when I first got asked to be on this, I thought we were going to cover the jails, but the governor wanted us to look at police functions, not jails. So I think at the very beginning, the media and the public may be very, very disappointed to see a report that didn't deal with the jails, because it's always in the press. So I think we have to be, that we know others have done that, but we took the charge from the governor very seriously, and we're looking at a police, patrol function. That's what we understood, what we did, and that's what our focus. So we should, almost set out very early on people's expectation. If you think you're going to read this because we did an evaluation of the jails, we haven't. And that's because of, this is what we thought that the governor's charge to us was. So we stayed within that, and we're doing it very neutrally, and from a very, I hope, objective point of view.
I can't agree more. Anybody that's worked with me knows that I feel very strongly that we need to present. My issue is also as a researcher, from a researcher's perspective, we're trying to get the reality of Erie County. That is a real thing. People have it. So many like the police, so many don't, and it's up to us to try to measure that accurately, and it's really difficult to do. So we've taken a few different ways to do it, and none of them are perfect. And they're going to tell us different things, and we need to show what we found. I would never hide anything or point to somebody or point to one place when it's not the most, when it's not the biggest thing to be pointed to, you know? With that being said, I don't think we should, I don't think that we should be talking about things that that we can't support. You know, if other people feel other way, what, you know, now I'll tell you that what Miles brought up, I can tell you that we already have some respondents who have said some, you know, critical things, and they absolutely need to be considered and then put into our framework and then included um, directly. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to be trying to do here. Quite frankly, we're not supposed to be trying to the collaborative and slap on the back. It's supposed to be reform. And so, you know, I want to give an honest presentation of the different things that we find and the implications that those things make. And quite frankly, I think your point about well, the way I've set this up is that the subcommittees, you're right, do have people that felt strongly about those areas, and we haven't, nor will I, give any directions on what they should write. So they should be writing what they want, and with the idea that they're writing from the information that we have. Right? Does that make sense?
And I think we should be doing this from an institutional point of view, which means you're not dealing with who currently runs the sheriff's department. You're looking at it as an institution, as it has existed, not just now, but the institution. How has it operated? Now we're looking at today's operation, but it really should be neutral. We're neither. I think the report's tone should be one, as you were saying, Marty, like we are members of the community. We all have different points of view, so it should be representative of what the community would want to ask and question. We went out to solicit more comments, but in the end, like you said, it's going to provide with, here's what we found, or here's what was responded to. And you know, try to give, it's basically a thing that whatever change is going to happen, it's going to happen at a policy level, whether it's the state legislature or locally, however, it's going to be a policy matter. So as a policymaker needs to know the facts, needs to know what the public in Erie County thinks, and a recommendation from a group that is a representative of those who this sheriff's department is serving. And then let the policymakers do what they need to do. Okay, they can follow recommendations. They don't have to. If some of us think, well, we would like to have had more opportunity to look at this and this, and the information is not available, but we recommend that kind of information be made available to the public, that's great. If we think there should be a standing committee of a citizen committee that, you know, to which complaints, whatever. I'm just, you know, throwing stuff out, whatever the recommendation. But I think the really important thing, I think we should start off by saying that a lot of our information was given to us, and talk about the cooperation of the sheriff's department staff in providing us information, because that's a fact. Okay, that's a fact. We asked for information and they provided it. That's a fact. But not to ever, you know, as I said, this neutral kind of objective observation of what we found and how we reached the conclusions we reached. So I think we're all on the same page on that.
Great.
Have a suggestion. We already know on the, based on the data that we have had that over 90,000 services call had been made, and the majority of those particular calls were made in the city of Buffalo, more than likely in a county building, where in those areas is a very diverse population, extremely diverse population. Now, it is nice to have the survey out there, but is there a way that we can figure out, I don't have the answer to the question, is how can we target that particular population to be the one to have access and answer the survey? Because that will give us a pretty decent picture of the sheriff department's action with a very diverse population that they have been serving for quite some time. And it's great. I mean, I love Bill and all of you guys, but if 100% of the people in will Bill is mayor answer the question, it is not going to actually have a great reflection on a minority composition, because he doesn't have that population. But if we can target that survey to be answered by those individuals that had been serviced by the sheriff department in the city of Buffalo or in the primary metropolitan areas. And why I say that is because we have Cheektowaga, Amherst, and so on and so forth. And if we can target it to that particular population, or I'm not saying targeted, but kind of like make an extra effort that they have access to the survey.
Isa, I think that's a great idea. I know that a lot of the road patrol's interaction with people of color happens at those buildings, particularly at social services. And a lot of the clients that I've gotten, have to do with road patrol responses to those buildings. I'm wondering if maybe we should do something like we do with the Corrections Advisory Board, where we target, different media outlets that service those particular communities, like maybe the Challenger, the Criterion, the Latino Village, Panorama, and I'm happy to take the lead on that, if that would be helpful.
I'm all about any way that we can get the most and best generalizable sample. What we're trying to find is, and quite frankly, I would be tickled pink if we received okay, Mel, here you go, a disproportionate stratified random sample where we over sampled underrepresented communities, and then we weigh those things back. But I'm not that hopeful, only out of experience. I haven't been super successful in getting lots of people from underserved communities to fill out electric surveys. There's a lot that goes into that, and some of it is systematic and some of it is trust. But any way that we could do to get more representation of people to express, especially because this survey is interesting to me because it has a handful that are that are open-ended, and they get to write, some of them are a little more difficult to read, but they get to express their ideas. And quite frankly, we're not asking for a vocabulary test. We're asking for their opinions. And I'll also say as a researcher that we shouldn't be confused, to get back to Margaret's earlier point, that what people say, we're asking about their perceptions. And perceptions are not the same thing as behaviors. Because everybody believes, that the sun rises in the west and goes down in the east, doesn't mean that that's true. And y'all picked up on the fact that I said it backwards.
Picking up what Miles says, one of the most powerful organizations out there, when you live in the town, you have connections to the town, you look at the town website. But let's face it, in the city of Buffalo, The black churches are probably one of the most powerful forces that if they see complaints, they're addressing them. So I don't know who has the connections to tap that network and basically saying, hey, the Erie County, there's a committee has been formed to evaluate the Erie County Sheriff's Department. They're not their holding center, but their patrol. So those of you who've had experience with them, whether it came into going into one of the downtown county offices and like that, they want us to send out and let you know that you can participate in a survey, so your voices are heard. If you have complaints, you can do it, and you do so on a confidential basis, because however you want to do it. I think, to me, that's the most powerful group that can reach an underserved population, or when I say underserved in that they a community that feels like, where's our voice? Well, their voice comes from the leaders within their church, many of whom have run for offices. President of the Common Council is a minister.
Yep.
So I don't know. If anybody, I think that's another good approach we should be looking at.
Miles,
A press release?
No,
I mean, they're familiar with press releases. Why not just do a press release on this survey?
no, I say there is a defined group of churches in the city of Buffalo that, if you know the minister of those churches, and they all sit together as well, that if you make a personal phone call and contact them and say, can you get this out? They can say it, they will say it during their Sunday service. They can post it around their church. They can get the people who are active, who are at the church doing things all during the week, who are doing outreach, because they do tremendous outreach, okay? Bottom line is, that's a population, just like when we got the other thing that when Andrew sent it to us the other day, you told us, well, send it to everybody you know. You guys contacted the Town Supervisors Association and got it out through the town. I'm saying this is the same kind of powerful network of people that we ought to reach out to.
Oh, I think that's a great network, Judge. I just think that coming from a county level, that there should be an impartial approach that reaches a mass community. And by doing a press release, and maybe even the sheriff's office doing their own press release, just inviting commentary might elicit people to pick up on that and carry it into their own smaller communities.
Andrew?
Something a pastor sees on TV, he takes to his sermon the next day.
I have a quick comment. Reverend Pridgen, the pastor to Bethel, I mean, he has perhaps one of the largest media outlet there is out there, which also includes many of the other I'm not going to say African American churches, but many of the other churches, including some of the Hispanics one in his outlet. I was fortunate enough that when I was doing a minority recruiting campaign for the probation department, we used that outlet. And he was very, very gracious to say, hey, if you need to put the word out there, by all means, just let me know what it is that you need to do. He'll review it, and he will be willing to put that kind of information out. I also think that the county press guy, Peter, I mean, he should be able to disseminate all of that to many different places, including a press release, but also sending that out to the massive email system that he has.
Okay, so
I also, just real quick, I just want to make it clear that those did not just go out to the towns. That went out to Association of Erie County Governments. So that included the city of Buffalo, Lackawanna, all villages, all towns. any municipality under Erie County did receive that. So you would just hope that their leadership would share it on their social media sites.
Okay, thanks.
So if I could jump in, first I'll start with Isa, you're hired as well. So if you could send the link and speak with the good president, I believe Dr. Reverend Pridgeon, that would be awesome. Miles, you've already been hired to reach out to any sources that you can think of that might get more people, any people, all people to fill it out. Andrew, can you get a press release set up through the county executive's office, like quickly? Is that possible?
I can definitely talk to
Peter.
Peter Anderson in our department. We definitely already posted it on our social media website as well. But I will definitely talk with the boss and Peter and see what we can do with that as well. I don't think that should be an issue at all.
That would be super helpful if we could get it out. Do you have any connections with I'm sure your office does, with, the various major news media, that we could get that press release, maybe some television time as well as, print media? Possibility?
Definitely try at it.
Okay. Hey, why are you talking to us without your mask on? Come on.
I am by myself in my office. Guaranteed.
I got Mel to smile. That's okay. Halfway home. All right. Anybody have anything else that we need to talk about other than the timing of the next meeting? I promise that I will start sending this data, get it to the Google Drive, and try to share it in any other way that I can figure. And so we'll get that to everybody. We need the committees, and if those committee leaders could try to reconvene a meeting of the subcommittee through Andrew, that would be really helpful. And I think Judge Murphy gave us great insight into how we might think about, without giving specifics, but generally your subcommittee should look at the charge from the governor's mandate, look at all the things that we've collected, think about the issues that you've identified, and start writing them up. We'll put it all together later after we reconvene and have a chance to debrief on what all the other subcommittees have written about, and we'll do those tweaks and move ahead. Any comments to that? So in the agenda, I see that, no, we didn't. Maybe it was in Andrew's email. Andrew, do we have a tentative date for the next meeting that we can ask if everybody's available?
When we discussed it last time, we were talking about this would be like a briefing, and then we would work on Tuesday. We would go back on Tuesday. But if Tuesday is not good, maybe Thursday later on in the week to get a little bit more time to get some responses for the surveys. Whatever you guys think is best.
I definitely think Tuesday is too early.
I would have to agree with you. I mean, obviously, we should spend some time by ourselves, kind of absorbing the data in the interest of being productive and efficient before we got to our subcommittees. We probably should spend a day or two looking at all the data that you're going to send us. So not to stumble through a meeting while we're looking through the data, to have the data, reviewed before we get online.
Gotcha.
I'm good to go Tuesday.
So either then, Thursday the 4th or Tuesday the 9th. I'm just looking at my calendar. Those seem to be the two related days. Unless
Marty, when can you
second?
Hold on, one at a time. Mayor, please. You
okay. Tuesday, you're saying February the 9th. I think that would be a good time. But can you give us some results of the surveys that you're sending out along with the data that's coming from Erie County Sheriff? I mean, yeah. I think, as a judge said before, send us something so that we can at least see maybe some possible trends. So we can have individually, mull this over and think about it, try to digest it, and then the committees can meet, if not by Zoom, at least by email, and start putting their recommendations and their findings and then their recommendations together. But we need the time. We need the time to think about it, and we need the information.
Yep. So the information, I think we can get that pretty quickly. The logistics we'll have to figure out, but I got most of the stuff. And I think the 9th is probably good too. Does anybody else have thoughts, yes or no? Does everybody support the 9th?
Isn't the 9th a little soon? I mean, when do you think you're going to get the bulk? How much do you have in hand right now? Like 80% based on the questionnaire that the committee set asking for certain questions? You got 80%, 50%?
Yeah, probably 80%.
You got 80%. Well, 80% if you get, I'm sorry, if you get that out right away, then yeah, I guess that's a good date. If you don't have 80%, then you're putting a lot on them and they're going to be reading volumes and thinking and trying to, and so the 9th would be too soon, but the 9th worth if you got about 80% and you can get it up on Google Docs immediately.
The one thing that we haven't even put out yet is the police officer, the deputy sheriff survey, but hopefully that'll go out tomorrow. And we can only pray that, it's a voluntary thing, and I'm not so sure how police officers in my various agencies are going to feel about filling out a survey, quite frankly. Even though it's anonymous, I just hope we get a good response, because quite frankly, I think they will come up with one thing I've always depended on is police officers find ways to solve problems. So they should come up with good suggestions on how to solve some of these problems. So I'm looking forward to their responses, but just like the citizens, I'm always a little uneasy and restless and hopeful until you get to see that everybody turn the stuff back in, and we get a good number of surveys, both for the citizens and the officers. But I should have stuff in the next day or two, a lot of stuff to get your way. Definitely by Monday. So if we do that, my concern is if we put it off any longer, then we have to the end of the month. We got a month to do this. So if we put it off for 2 weeks, then we only have 2 weeks from then to get everything done. I think that's too short. So the 9th is what I'm voting for. I think it's a happy middle ground. Okay, unless somebody has any objections, we'll shoot for Tuesday the 9th at 5 p.m. Andrew will set things up with Magic Andrew here. We'll take care of things. Thank you.
Yes, I will do that, and I will also see about seeing what we have on the Google Docs already and seeing if we can transform that to PDF files, and I'll try to get that out to everybody as well.
Yeah, okay. Maybe you could send me that link, because I've got a few and I'm getting confused. If you send me a link to that Google Docs, then I could try to put stuff directly into it and see if it works.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Excellent. Anything for the good of the order?
Yeah, Marty, I've just been thinking here in between all the great conversation, and my question is, how in this great county in which we live, how in this county can a little village of 4,298 people in southern Erie County be number 5 on the list of service calls? I'm going to be emailing you about that. That just doesn't seem to be right.
Well, well, I think you're bigger than a lot of other ones. So out of the 50 that were there, and I think size has an influence here, but we'll see. We'll see. And my guess is most everybody was calls for police services, so they weren't for serious stuff. I would imagine
you're getting your taxpayer dollars worth.
That's right. Just trying to pay off that contract, I see. My father would be, everybody's father would be proud of you as they jingle the change in their pocket. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Anybody have any parting thoughts or comments? Deputy Dan, do you have anything you want to say as far as going forward? Your plans? Anything?
He's muted.
You're muted, Daniel.
Yeah, many of the questions relate are the answers to a lot of the questions that you gave me are in the policy and procedural manuals that I gave you guys right in the beginning. And many of the answers are right there. And so I guess, do you want me to point them out? Because I gave them to you a long time ago, and I thought you guys would go through them, but a lot of the questions are answered there. And what I'll do is I'll point them out to you.
Yeah, just reference them. You don't have to put anything in, just reference them, and the subcommittees will then not have to go through 4 volumes of stuff to try to figure out if it's the CO or the PO or the IBM. And I think that's a missile. So let's hope it's not that one. Okay, good. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? All right. Well, we'll leave with a beautiful view of Issa's shores and go out on that little skiff and have some fun. Thank you. Enjoy your dinner. I will see you soon. Thank you for all of your hard work. We're going to have to really turn it into overdrive. But I've been thinking that, and I'm happy, Mayor, that you got yours in, but we're, like you said, a bigger place. And I'm really happy that what I think is going to go in as a report is going to be well thought out and of high quality. And that's very important to me. And so if we don't win the race, that's fine to get across the line first. But if we make it in by April 1st, that's important. And then I hope, most importantly, and this gets back to Judge Murphy and everybody else's comments, you know, at the end of the day, I always argue that evaluation is not to get people in trouble. It's not to turn into some higher authority. When it's done correctly, it's done as a way to examine and to have organizational improvement, continuous organizational improvement. And if we look at it in that light, we will put that neutral lens on it, and we will make the hard calls when we need to and point out the issues that need to be looked at or reassessed or changed or eliminated. And we can also similarly point to all of those things that we know the Erie County Sheriff's Office does that has tremendously positive impacts on our communities. So it should be balanced and fair and well thought out and documented. And that's what I'm going to encourage all of us to do going forward. So good luck. Have a great night. And again, enjoy your dinner. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Marty.
Okay.
So long, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
So long, Nathan.
Thank you.